Hey, what's up, everybody? Druid Dave, back at it. Welcome back, my truest travelers. Today we're going to be trying something a bit different. Anyway, so today we're going to be talking about boundaries and how your boundaries can feel like a cage for others, which will then ruffle their feathers. Let's get into it. If you've ever set a boundary and suddenly felt like the bad guy, this video's for you. Let's talk about something that's been on my mind lately, and I know it's probably been on yours too if you've clicked on this video. Here's the truth that nobody tells you about boundaries. They're going to ruffle some feathers. In fact, your boundaries might feel like a cage to the people around you, and you know what? That's a good thing. When you establish clear limits in your life, when you start saying no to things that drain you, when you protect your time, energy, it creates friction, especially with people who benefited from those boundaries not existing. Think about it. Someone who's been used to having unlimited access to your time, your energy, your resources, they're naturally going to feel constrained when you start drawing the lines. They got comfortable with the old dynamic. They knew how to operate in that space where you were always available, always accommodating, always saying yes. Yes, ma'am. Yes, man. And here's what happens. They push back. They test your resolve. They might even make you feel guilty for setting those limits. It's uncomfortable as hell, but it's also revealing. That resistance tells you something important. It shows you which relationships were built on what you could provide rather than on mutual respect. The people who continue to feel caged by your reasonable boundaries, they're revealing how they viewed the relationship to begin with. They saw you as a resource, not as a person with your own needs. So yeah, your boundaries will absolutely ruffle feathers. But the question isn't whether they'll be upset. The question is, whose comfort are you prioritizing, theirs or yours? Part 2, soft boundaries versus granite foundations. There's a reason people keep walking all over you, and it's not what you think. Let's talk about something that changed everything for me, the difference between soft boundaries and firm ones. Here's what I realized, and this might sting a little. Nobody respects soft boundaries. When your limits are vague, negotiable, or constantly shifting, they essentially aren't boundaries at all. They're just suggestions that people learn to ignore. When you're wishy-washy about your boundaries, you're actually teaching people that persistence will tear you down. And that cycle, it's absolutely exhausting. It's eroding. You end up feeling deflated and defeated because you allowed everyone to walk all over you and trample your energy, your spirit, and your peace. But here's the empowering part. We decide what our boundaries are. So we get to decide our boundaries, and nobody can say anything about it. And if they think they can, then they can take a hike. They don't get to decide. They don't get to say anything about it, and no one else gets to tell us what our boundaries should be. We get to determine what's acceptable in our lives, and nobody can tell us any different. That's where the power lives. That's the statement they hate. Think about that. They don't want you to know how manipulative they are. Because here's the paradox. Boundaries, which might seem restrictive from the outside, are actually what create freedom on the inside. When you're constantly accommodating everyone else's needs and letting your limits get crossed, you end up imprisoned by other people's expectations and demands. Firm boundaries do the opposite. They protect your core. They guard your energy, your time, your peace. When you stop letting people trample through your life unchecked, you reclaim the space to actually be yourself. You're not constantly managing everyone else's feelings or scrambling to meet demands that leave you completely depleted. when you uphold your boundaries. Boundaries aren't walls that keep you locked in. They're foundations that set your spirit free. They give you the solid ground you need to stand on while you figure out who you really are and what you actually want. And trust me, once you taste that freedom, you'll never go back to being sandstone for everyone else. Which brings me to part 3, weathering the storm, granite versus erosion. They're not going to make it easy for you. Here's why you need to be stronger than you think. Let's talk about what happens when you actually set those firm boundaries and people don't like it. Their persistence and manipulation, it's like a relentless wind carrying sand and dust. It hits your foundation over and over, trying to erode your resolve, your rock, your core. And here's what you need to understand. They're counting on you being made of sandstone or limestone. They're banking on you being soft, enough to wear you down. Sandstone and limestone crumble because they're porous. They absorb the pressure. But a granite foundation, it doesn't absorb the pressure. It deflects it. The wind and sand just keep blowing past without making a dent. That's what firm boundaries look like in practice. You're not getting drawn into lengthy justifications. You're not absorbing other people's disappointments or anger as if it's your responsibility to fix. You're not letting guilt seep into the cracks. You're just standing there with a simple, unchanging no. No. Say it. No, I will not be manipulated. No, I refuse to be manipulated. I trust my gut instinct. If I feel as if I'm being manipulated, more than likely I am. And they can take a hike. That's right, they can take a hike and they can F off. Or this is what works for me. Tell them that. No, this is what works for me. Can you fit into my schedule? Contact me ahead of time if you want to hang out with me or if you want to plan something with me, because I'm busy and I have a life and you need to respect my boundaries. And if you don't like it, then you don't respect me and I don't want you around. This is how you need to speak with people, and I'm dead serious. And it doesn't shift no matter how much pressure gets applied. Now, here's what nobody warns you about. The people doing the eroding often escalate when they realize the soft stone has been replaced with granite. They blow harder. The manipulation intensifies. They might act shocked or even hurt that you're suddenly so rigid. They'll tell you you've changed, that you're not the person they knew. And you know what? They're right. You're not. You're someone who respects themselves now. And if they don't like it, they can take a hike. This is exactly when the granite foundation matters most. When the resistance intensifies is precisely when you need to stand firmest. Because if you crumble now, you've just taught them exactly how much pressure it takes to break you down. Your foundation needs to be stronger than their persistence. Your commitment to yourself needs to be more relentless than their attempts to manipulate you back into the old patterns. It takes real strength to become that granite, especially if you've spent years being sandstone for everyone else. But here's what I know. You have that strength. You wouldn't be watching this if you didn't. Call to action. So here's what I want you to do. Think about one boundary you've been too soft on, just one. And I want you to practice being granite this week. No lengthy explanations, no absorbing their frustration, no letting them erode your resolve. If this resonated with you, drop a comment below and tell me which boundary you're committing to strengthening. Yeah, tell me which boundary you're going to work on this week. I want to hear about it. And if you found this helpful, subscribe, because we're going to keep talking about the real stuff, the messy, uncomfortable truths about protecting your peace in a world that wants you to be available 24/7. Remember, boundaries set your spirit free. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. Darkness, light only shines while facing the darkness, and the peak of being is merely being. I'd love for you guys to subscribe and to leave a comment. That obviously really helps get the video out. There's someone else out there who desperately needs to watch this video. Someone who's been abused for years, someone who's been manipulated for years, and they don't even know that they're sandstone. And on top of that, they don't even know that they have the capability or the freedom to become granite. The reason you feel guilty when you uphold your boundaries is because you're a good person. It's because you're a nice person. You are too nice. You're idealistic. You feel like you can trust everyone else. But behind their mask, behind the facade, they're anything but. They're manipulative. They're narcissistic. They're self-centered egotists. And they want you to fit into their frame, to fit into their narrative, whether it's politics, whether it's religion, whether it's culture. And what we're going to do today is we're going to take a stand and we're going to say, we don't have to fit into your narrative. We don't have to fit into your political rhetoric. We don't have to fit into your religious dogma. And if you don't like it, you can sit down and shut up, or you can take a hike. Those are your two options.